welcome to episode 98 of Coffee with Mirko. We are going nice and strong towards episode 100. Today we're joined by Todd Souter, and he should be joining us very briefly. First and foremost, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for being part of this community. I really appreciate each and one of you. I see you in the comments, I see you in the lives, I see you on the podcast, I see you everywhere. So I really appreciate it. It's been crazy over here. Things have been reopening and I've been really busy. So that's why I haven't been super active. But there's a few things we're working on the behind the scenes. And today's going to be another great opportunity to talk to another amazing person in the coffee game. And looking forward to it, especially if you guys are interested in freezing your coffee. This is one episode you don't want to miss. So we'll send the invite to Todd. Hopefully he can tune in soon. And otherwise, hope you're well. Hope you're doing fantastic. I'm enjoying a beautiful coffee. All the way from Germany. So this is Populous. And pretty delicious. And Todd is in the house, so we're ready to rock and roll.
Oh, mate, how are you?
Good day, mate. Fantastic. How you doing?
Pretty good. What's happening?
Oh, look at your beard game is just next level. I know it's always there, but like it's just
Thanks, mate.
perfection.
Oh, wow.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for coming, and super good to have you. And how are you? And how's everyone? I know things are better now, but how you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm doing really well, actually. I just want to say thank you thanks for the invite. I really appreciate the opportunity. Doing well, like doing a lot better than I was, at the start of the lockdown, that's for sure.
It's good. It's good. Okay, I got you back. I think it's a beautiful sunny day in Melbourne. So
hmm
we're very grateful to be able to be out and about, kinda. And I guess we can just get it all started by asking you, how did you start in coffee?
Oh, wow. It was a long time ago. I guess when I was about 18, 19, took an interest in coffee. Mum and Dad had a coffee machine at home. They're always making coffee. It was just part of the ritual in the morning. I was under the impression everyone had the same ritual at their house, but apparently that wasn't the case. When I was about, 19, 20, started my first job in coffee, just like this cafe I went to every day. So I'm originally from Hobart in Tasmania. And this coffee shop I went through probably 2 or 3 times a day. I had about 2 or 3 strong lattes every day. They just said one day their barista just didn't show up at work for some reason. So it's just quite common in hospitality. Sometimes people just don't show up at all, which is a bit frustrating. But they said, hey, you obviously like coffee. Do you reckon you can help us out? Said yes, but had no idea what I was doing. Just kind of got into it, had to figure it out as I go. Learn as you go. That was kind of the way I got into coffee.
And then, all the way up. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess from there, I guess I've got a bit of an obsessive compulsive sort of personality. So I love all those little details that are in coffee. I feel like every day you're learning something new. So after working at that cafe for a couple of years, working a few different cafes around Hobart, I got a call from my uncle, and he owned a cafe called This Little Piggy. It's in Balaclava. Um, anyway, I was in Balaclava in St Kilda. They said, can you come and help us out this weekend? So we really need someone I can trust. So I think I said yes before I even finished asking the question, can you fly to Melbourne and come make coffee in the shop? Flew to Melbourne just for the weekend originally, and I think before I knew it, I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to do this full time, work in the cafe, learn how to be a better barista. That was 2011. So I've been in Melbourne since 2011.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. Going back to being a bit obsessive, I mean,
Mm.
Gagan just dropped a big question, which I think you are qualified to answer. It's a big question, but what's the secret for the best espresso?
I don't think there's a secret. Um, it's yeah, it's a funny thing. I guess these days I look at the balance, like the taste balance on the score sheet. That acid, sweet, and bitter, how those kind of elements work together. My philosophy is now if I don't enjoy drinking the espresso, I wouldn't expect a customer to enjoy it in the cafe. That's how I look at it at the moment. But I guess if it's sweet and do I enjoy drinking it, then I'll be happy to serve that to someone. Um, there's no secret as such. I think it's just lots of tasting and lots of practice. And I think getting other people's opinion on the coffee that you're drinking is also really helpful. Like sometimes as a barista, you can get in that sort of that tunnel vision, you get those shop blinders going, and it's hard to sort of decide, oh yeah, this is pretty good. But until you get other people's opinion that are experienced, or even if they're more experienced than you, that's probably even better. Like ask them, hey, what do you think? Um, but it's one of those things you're constantly learning how to make better coffee. There's no secret as such, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think it's unlucky and lucky at the same time. It's one of those things like it's such a subjective experience often. I mean,
Mm.
sort of, if something is super bitter, it's bitter, like it's objectively. At the same time, in terms of taste and what we enjoy, it's so diverse, and I think it's a pretty beautiful, unpredictable thing that we do, and I think it's part of the beauty is there. And someone else is asking, how do you measure the caffeine in the coffee beverage? Can you please let me know?
I'm not really, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question. I'm not a scientist. I guess in coffee, everyone has a different sort of caffeine threshold, a different sort of caffeine tolerance, I guess you could say. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm not Hendon or Rao or none of those guys. Yeah, and so from Tassie to Melbourne, so sort of the dream coming true because it's the mecca for coffee. And
Exactly.
how was navigating the scene in Melbourne? Like, what kind of tips or what did you do in terms of looking for the next job, learning more, looking for not mentors, but those places where you could surround yourself and perfect those, I suppose, skills that you were looking to perfect.
Yeah, sure. I think having that sort of obsessive sort of tunnel vision sort of approach to maintaining and getting your foot in the door in Melbourne is actually very difficult. It's a bit of a challenge. But basically, any coffee book I could get my hands on, if it was a DVD or a course, I would just grab it, just go for it. You just need to learn as much as you possibly can. Find all the books at the library you possibly can, do your research. I think I applied at Century Lab in the city at David Jones in the David Jones building. I think I applied there every week, and I called the manager, who was Lachlan Ward, who was running the shop at the time, 2013 Australian Brewers Cup champion. I think I called him and called him and called him. Eventually, he said, "Okay, mate, please stop calling me. Just come in for a trial. Just please stop hassling me." That was how I got my foot in the door, and I wasn't particularly good at making coffee back then. I was a little bit, nervous, a bit young at the time, a little bit, unsure of what I was doing. Probably made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of bad coffee, but end of the day, that's the journey. That's part of the experience. You need to learn from your mistakes, and I think I try to make a mental note now. If I make a mistake, okay, don't do that again. That's how you learn. You're able to move forward from there.
Yeah, and I think that persevering and like it's super important. Whether it's barista or wait staff or chefing, or I think hospitality is very forgiving in the sense of very rarely we come across owners or like if they're already in the hospitality business, 8, 9 times out of 10 they should be people. Therefore, they might say no today, but they might say yes in a month, and there's such a high turnover that. But
Yeah,
you asking every single week, I think it's the right way to do it, and
yeah,
and I think something that's quite underrated too is, I mean, if you really want a dream job and and you're okay with money, like I think also offering yourself to sort of help around for free as a space in certain shops, in certain settings. Because I think, for instance, roasting is one of those things that it's very hard to get a job as a roaster, unless because it's such an investment for the coffee roasters to sort of teach. But if you have something to offer, then whether it's, I don't know, I'm going to do A, B, C, D for free or something, then there is a bit of a bargain there. So I think also thinking outside the box, especially in this day and age of what's happening around the world, I think that could be another little thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the time, Lachlan, my manager, recognised that, this guy is very committed, he's very keen. He loves learning, he loves asking questions. Like, you need to be that guy and just really get your foot in the door. And, it's like the Richard Branson thing. It's like you just need to say yes when you have that opportunity to come up and figure out how to do it later. It was just that sort of cycle, learn as you go, develop those skills, and, that eventually led me to get into competitions, and, that was the next step, I think, then.
And touching just briefly based on competition, what was the thought process behind in terms of like what was the aha moments? I want to give competition a shot.
So I think one of the baristas, or the next manager in line at the time, was Brett Sutton at Sensory Lab. I think he said to me in 2014 that you should do competitions, be really good for you, be good for your development. I said no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do that. You kind of have yourself doubting yourself a little bit, which I realise now that was a mistake. You should never doubt yourself or doubt your own capabilities. But 2015, I started competing. So competed in the regionals, then did okay. Just served a coffee that I was really passionate about, which is the washed Ethiopia Jaeger chef. I think it's called Cola. I think that was the name of the farm. But yeah, did okay. Like I placed 6 in Victoria for my first competition. That was okay. Scores weren't that great for the espresso, but the judges could tell I was very passionate about what I was doing. I really loved talking about coffee, so that kind of gives you a bit of encouragement to keep going.
Yeah, it's good. But it's good that you didn't feel the pressure in, because I think sometimes people think that competing is like almost like a requirement, or it's that's what you gotta do. But I think it's only if you enjoy, and it's the process behind it and the learning curve of it.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, that was competitions are the big learning step. So, you can get to a certain point working on bar, you get pretty proficient at making coffee. There are some amazing baristas out there who have never competed and they don't feel the need to. That's okay. That was just the path that my career started to go on, and that's why I sort of got into teaching and talking to people more about coffee and about flavour. So you've got to start somewhere, but you eventually find a place where you enjoy that part of the industry. That's what you keep focusing on. So some people it might be the gear, might be the technology. Some people get into roasting. So, everyone's got a different destiny in life.
Yeah, there's such a multifaceted industry. There's people building multi-site shops, people focusing on food as well as coffee, people who just want to have, sort of a job. And I think that we're lucky that in Melbourne that's possible to still have a good life as a barista full time. I think it's, it may not be as secure as, I don't know, one of those, but still, I lived on barista salary for many years, and, I was never in a troubled situation. So I think it's really great for that an opportunity in this city, at least in this country. And I do have a question for you though, before I forget it, because it's a bit of a selfish question, and it gets us into something that I believe that you're passionate about. So I have some extremely good coffee that was gifted to me by a good friend of mine. I'm thinking of freezing them because it's one of those coffee, it's 4 different coffees from 9 class, but I don't have the freezing tubes. How do you feel about putting a bag in the freezer?
Do you mean like just a plastic bag, or?
Oh, just the actual coffee bag.
Yeah, you can
I've seen people doing it, but I'm not asking the expert of the ice.
I don't know if I'm an expert. I've been doing it for a few years now, but I think short term, yes, you could put a bag of coffee into the freezer. provided the one-way valve, if that's taped up, that's sealed shut. Yes, you can do it in the short term. So some days I'm just too busy to freeze some coffee. So what I have done is just take the valve shut, put it into the freezer. Then the next day I might vacuum seal that or tube that up. So it's individually dosed for later. But yeah, it's definitely an option.
Okay. And now that we stepped into the big field, how did you come across freezing? What do you see in freezing? And obviously, you can to give context, tell everyone, I guess, what you're currently doing, which is very much freezer related.
Yeah. So yeah, at the moment, I'm one of the owners of Sub-Zero Coffee with Kirk Pearson and Tom Eason. So we specialize in freezing coffee in a bit like a wine bar kind of experience, like the coffee. So we've got about 40, 50 different coffees on a menu. So the idea is you come in and say, hey, I like milk coffee. Awesome. We can match the coffee, your sort of flavor profile that you're looking for. You like Ethiopian coffee as a filter. Awesome. We can find a coffee that you like. But yeah, I guess long story short, I got into freezing coffee in 2017. Kirk Pearson, who was a really good friend of mine and my business partner, he saw Matt Lewin competing at the national competition. He was using liquid nitrogen to freeze his coffee. And Kirk said to me, he said, oh, we should try that. And I thought it was a bad idea. I thought it was just a gimmicky thing kind of do, to stand out. And, in competition, some things are done not necessarily that are flavor related, but maybe to prove a point or to get across a certain idea that's related to your topic. But Kirk sent me this espresso. We were working in St. Ali at the time, and he served me my competition coffee, which is a natural process Elboro Geisha, like just an awesome, incredible coffee. He served that to me, and I thought that's probably one of the best espressos I've ever had. Like, just had that nice texture, had the sweetness, had the flavor clarity. It's like had everything that's kind of turned up to 11. It was just an awesome coffee. And I said, what did you do? He said, I vacuum sealed it and I froze it. I thought, that doesn't make sense. No way. There's no way. That's not possible. He goes, I'll show you. So you got a frozen dose out of the freezer, straight into the grinder, into your handle, put it in the machine, brewed it, and same thing. It was the same coffee again, just different preparation. Couldn't believe it. So since then, I've had this sort of fascination and interest with freezing coffee.
It's kind of funny because, freezers have been around for a while. I don't know the specifics of the first freezer ever invented, but, we've been putting in the freezer pretty much anything, like even fruit or vegetables to make vegetable stock or vegetable broth or your smoothies. And it's just like, because the concept obviously is just to, slow down the aging factor, so we put one of our bodies in the sort of freezers and ice baths, and yet freezing coffee is still quite very, very young and fresh, which is interesting because, I still have people think that a 4 weeks old roasted coffee is too old, which I personally actually quite enjoy aged coffee, especially for filter. But then we have seen many people dumping coffee because too old when they could have frozen it, which is interesting.
Yeah, it makes me a little bit sad people are doing that now. Like, I went to Honduras last year and sort of realized there's so much work that goes into producing high quality coffee, like hours of picking and hand sorting, and then obviously to process it and make sure it's roasted properly and cup it and sort of check it. It's almost a miracle that we have this like such great coffee available. It's we sort of forget that sometimes, but definitely if you can freeze it to preserve it, save it for later, I would much rather do that than see coffee get wasted. It makes me a bit sad now when people are throwing out coffee.
Yeah, and actually, it's not part of my questions, but I thought about it just now. Within all your experimenting, let's say that today I freeze, my dose of coffee, and tomorrow I pull it out. Not tomorrow, a month time. When I pull it out, how long? Because you obviously at Sub-Zero, you just serve it straight away. But have you done any testing in terms of, pulling out the freezer, but maybe drinking it 2, 3, 4 days later?
I haven't tried that. I've tried different amounts of time after taking a dose out of the freezer. So I did an experiment with the milk-based coffee. So I was thought it was interesting. I've had really good milk-based coffees off an espresso grinder, but with an EK, because you have that consistent particle size, it's not quite the same. It doesn't have the same amount of body and sort of that coarser particle size. It's a different kind of experience. It's very clean off an EK. So I had this idea, what if you took a frozen dose out, let it sit, and then grind it? What would happen? So I tried, 15 minutes, half an hour, and 60 minutes out of the freezer. The 60-minute one obviously had a bit more body and a bit more fruit to it. So I thought that's an interesting idea. I have also left coffee outside the freezer by mistake overnight and tried it the next day, but it was like the cells in the coffee were basically dead. It just had no flavour. It was very flat, very hollow kind of tasting. So I think the condensation does have a negative impact on coffee. So any moisture obviously will degrade the quality and the aroma. But if you can, obviously take it from the freezer straight to the grind, you get the best results that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously you guys have like a little, what do you call it, like a treasure chest or chest box or whatever it's called, because you have some incredible coffee, but yet you can freeze pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a stigma around freezing that you just freeze the good stuff or the expensive stuff. But if you have a lot of coffee because someone gifted it to you and it's, good coffee, normal coffee, you can still freeze it.
Yeah, absolutely. So like there was a time when I was at Veneziano and when the cafe was shut for during the sort of public holiday, I had the idea, okay, there's all this coffee we have on the bar, it's going to get old, it's going to sort of pass that ideal time we want to drink it, sort of past that ideal age. So I thought, okay, we freeze this now and we'll come back when we reopen, the coffee will be fresh. So that was a way of saving that coffee. Nothing was thrown out. You're not wasting money, you're not wasting coffee. So from a business perspective and from obviously understanding now what it's like to run a cafe, how expensive and how much work is required, it's actually, it looks easy, but it's actually not that easy. But yeah, you can freeze any coffee and preserve it for later. You don't have to throw it out.
It's good. It's good. I think it's in terms of the wastage, I think it's hopeful that we can think in those terms in the future. And what's been so far the reception? Like, your regular Joe or Joanne walks into the shop, and how many visits they need until it clicks, until they go, oh.
Yeah, we've had a few of those today. Even like Kirk and I love seeing people who don't understand what great coffee can be and what great coffee, really exceptional coffee, can taste like. So we have done a few experiments. People have asked for just a latte or just a milk-based coffee. We've actually given them something really hectic and really sort of crazy, and that's kind of like they've done the head sort of snaps back. It's almost like, I don't know if you've seen Seinfeld when Kramer walks in the room, his head sort of snaps back. It's that kind of experience. They're like, what is this? And we sort of explain, so hey, what we did, we actually got that coffee, froze it and put it in the grinder, and actually it just amplifies the flavour and the texture and the sweetness in the coffee. And they're a bit blown away by it. They don't really know what they're tasting. So that part has been really enjoyable. Like it opens up dialogue with customers that don't really understand. There is different types of coffee. There are different varietals. There's different processing methods. There's varying degrees of quality. So much like you can get a bottle of wine for $10 versus one for $50. There is different price points to suit different people, what you're looking for. But some people, coffee's coffee, that's okay. But for us, obviously, people like you and I, and that Sub-Zero, it's coffee's a pretty special thing. So taking people on the journey has been very rewarding.
It's good. It's good. I think, people like yourself and what you guys are doing is, it's good, because I think at the end of the day, it's about doing and trying new things, and it's about, the effort no effort approach in terms of just stuff everything and everyone, but sort of like, it's bad, but it's good. Like, it's one of those things. I think that we need more and more pioneers or more and more risk takers, rather than just doing copy and paste. Copy and paste is fine because there's I don't know how many hundreds of millions of pizza shops, and they all do pizza. Like there's hundreds of thousands of coffee shops who just do coffee and food. But I think it's good to see because then someone else will look at that and they might have an idea out of it, and it's just about evolution and progression. Something to think about for sure.
Yeah, definitely a lot of coffee shops in Melbourne, so it is a bit of a risk to offer something that's different. So like our menu is set up, we just do milk, filter, and espresso. But some people still come in and ask for a latte. We say, yeah, no worries. Some people don't want to go on the journey, but if people want to, that's where we can have a bit of fun and get to try different things.
Yeah, love it. And I'm not sure if you ever watched this podcast, but now we reached the halfway mark and we got a out of the box question, which is, if you could, who would you like to have dinner with?
Wow, okay. That's an interesting question.
It can be anybody, coffee or non-coffee related. That's up to you.
Tough one. Initially, I was going to say maybe Eden Oriozaki. Let's have dinner with him. I think his routine in 2014 at WB, so that was just incredible. Like, you can watch that routine and every time you see something new and something different. I think someone outside of coffee, I think Bruce Lee would be a cool person to have dinner with. The way he could take an idea and turn that into a way of expressing himself, and that sort of having a different philosophy about what martial arts could be. I think that's a really inspiring thing. So he's someone that really inspires me, even to this day. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Good options. I like it. Thank you. And my man Amos is asking, what is your daily choice of coffee? Which it could, I'm assuming the question is what coffee you drink daily.
I drink everything, so I think, I've got to understand what the customers are drinking in the cafe, number one. So I always start the day with a milk-based coffee. First thing is kind of just to wake up and, fire up the gears. But yeah, definitely starting with milk coffee. Doesn't need to be anything super expensive as long as it's got a nice balance of milk and espresso. Happy with that. I'll probably follow with a filter and espresso after that. But yeah, probably drinking 2 or 3 coffees a day, but lots of tasting now as well. So like tasting and spitting stuff out and talking about the balance and if we can tweak the recipe. It's a constant thing.
Good. And Gagan is asking, which I'm not sure if I understood the question. Does classic brew method give good taste or a modern method? If you can be more specific, Gagan, but I'm assuming I'm translating the question my way. I think classic brew method, we probably could think, I guess, your classic, I don't know, grandma, grandpa brewing a mocha pot or some sort of older method versus a modern method maybe could be considered, it's not really that modern, but I guess the more fancier equipment when it comes to filter or espresso machines. I don't know if that's the question.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I haven't really had any stovetops that haven't had many stovetop coffees I've particularly enjoyed. I've had friends make me a stovetop, but the quality of beans probably wasn't the best. So I haven't enjoyed those so much. But you can definitely I'm sure you can make good coffee on any equipment, provided you got a good grinder and good coffee. I'm sure you can definitely do it.
Yeah, well, I just confirmed that modern machine versus grandpa method. Obviously, grandpa method there's different options because you got the big long socks typical of South America, and then you have Turkish way doing coffee or the Italian way or the Greek way, or there's plenty. But I suppose that, like you said, it's about the coffee first, probably the water second, and then how you make it through that recipe, through that method, because it's all about, at the end of the day, it's coffee and water, and there's a ratio in between the two.
Exactly.
There's more, but the basics.
Yeah. Basically, good quality coffee. The water's really important as well. You could have good filtered water.
And I think that just briefly for you, Gagan. I mean, most older school methods, they have so many cool little gadgets. Like I've seen stovetop filters. They're more for specialty coffee. I've seen a whole bunch of different little toys that are not necessarily that expensive, just to enhance the experience from older to more modern. So that's kind of also as well interesting.
Yeah.
What's your, because I know you do your top 50, but what's been your top 3 coffee from the freezer during the pandemic? All right, let's narrow down the window.
Do you mean like my personal freezer at home, or just in general?
Oh, I'm assuming that your personal freezer is similar. Well, I don't know. There's many freezers around. Whichever freezer you pick.
Okay, sure. I'm a really big fan of the Ethiopia Indigo coffee from Honor. That's just an incredible filter coffee experience. So whenever I go back to that, it's like I can find a different flavor in that coffee, but it always has those, those chocolates, like high quality chocolates, passion fruit, strawberry jam, blueberry, purple grape. It's just an awesome coffee. Like I'm a big fan of the Ethiopian coffees. That's probably my number one. Ethiopia Jasper, milk based, that Angus Mackey made me 20 at 6 out of my mind. So he made me a coffee off the milk cloud. So I'm not sure if I'm saying that, but basically it was a device for textured milk that didn't use any air. And it was just a very creamy, almost decadent dessert-like coffee experience. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, tough one. There's so many. The Kenya Cheniere estate we had at Sub-Zero for espresso. That was amazing coffee. So a naturally processed Kenyan, French machine Kenyan. That was incredible coffee. Almost had like a Chardonnay quality as an espresso. That's on my mind. Yeah, there's been a few good ones this year.
Yeah, you definitely have a wide range on your menu. There's no shortage of options there.
And too many.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, the good part of freezing is that you don't have that much wastage. So in terms of stocking, exactly. I guess that's your one of the pros. But how has it been to sort of start a business pre and after pandemic, pre and during pandemic, and such a new concept? Like, what's been your number one thing that you learned, and your number one thing that you thought it would have gone this way, but it's gone this way? What we're taking out of that?
Yeah, it's been a massive challenge, and I think the first lockdown wasn't that hard because we were kind of in the talking phase of starting this new business, and a concept was definitely there. So we were doing pop-ups around Melbourne, just frozen coffee pop-ups. So we had one at Lamazocco headquarters. We had one at Abacus on Chapel Street. Australia weekend, that was incredibly busy. That was a lot of fun. We had one at the Slayer headquarters, and we were going to do one at Cartel, but unfortunately, because of the restrictions, that didn't happen. So we initially opened the cafe, I think July 10th this year. It was 2 days before we opened. The government announced we couldn't do dine-in coffee, so it was only going to be takeaway. And that was a bit upsetting, a bit difficult, but just have to carry on sometimes. So I've learned that sometimes you do need to compromise a little bit. You've got to meet people halfway in order to be able to do it. But I mean, ultimately, it's been a lot of hard work, and I think having that motivation to keep going and sort of say, come on, let's get on with it. We can just make it work. I didn't think I had that sort of determination in me, but it's amazing what you can do in in a difficult situation. Yeah,
thank you. No, I think many people find that daunting as a start, but at the end of the day, it's you just take a day at a time, and no matter how many plans you do, and no matter how many plans you make, sometimes things come their way, and you just have to juggle with them and prioritize and sort of learn what it comes to as well. I mean, I don't think there's been any, in the past 20 years, any harder time than ever than the past 6 months to start any kind of businesses, unless, hang on, unless it's Shopify related, that's so incredible sore, but especially for retail. So definitely, it's been great to see you guys doing what you've been doing, and how the adaptability of it, like how quick you guys had to learn and navigate the online world. And you're like, well, shit, we might have to start selling things online because people can't come to us. How can we go to them? Like, how was that learning process, and how was that, the actual journey of it?
Yeah, I guess that was the tough part during the. We had a second lockdown. That was probably the more difficult one because you had to stay home. You couldn't go out, do anything. So that was a little bit. I don't want to say depressing, but it was pretty hard. It's not a nice feeling getting up and not knowing what you need to do, not having a job, not having a sense of purpose. That was a little bit dark, but that's sort of fine. But I think then, we started thinking, okay, if we could get someone to roast the coffee for us, we could have an online store. So if people can't come to us, maybe we can bring the coffee to them. So we did so yeah, Ben Tevy's been roasting. Ben Tevy from Genovese Coffee. He's the I think 2018 Australian roasting champion. He placed fourth in the world roasting competition, so he knows his stuff. He's roasted all our coffee for us, so we had the online store. And then we started doing the frozen coffee care packages. So the idea was if you're in a hard lockdown for 28 days, you have a coffee, single dose coffee, frozen. Each day of the lockdown, 28 days, you've got a dose every single day. So just pull out of the freezer, and had the recipe on the bag. It was super, super easy. So surprisingly, people really enjoyed that. That sold really well. And it was just a nice thing, that experience for people at home. But yeah, definitely the online thing, that's been a whole new thing we've both had to learn about. So building the website, I've never done that before, getting all the content on there, making sure, when you purchase something, it does actually work, making sure the address and the shipping is all correct. So it was, yeah, a long learning process. Like, we've never done that before, but sort of have to figure it out as you go. That's kind of how we've had to do it. We've got to be fluid in that situation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the things that we thought would not be possible a year, 2, 3, 5 ago, it's just even the fact that you, for instance, are doing Zoom barista classes and things like that. I mean, I was actually, during the podcast, I actually thought about it. It hit me. I'm like, well, one day it's going to be virtual reality training. Like literally, I thought about it because I was like, well, hang on, like, to reduce wastage, or someone will come up with some incredible piece of software where you literally actually making a cup of coffee virtually. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it'll take longer than a few years, but how was that even for you in terms of like, oh, you know what, I think I can train someone online?
Yeah, it was definitely sort of realizing maybe this is the direction the industry is going. So we're in a difficult times. You just got to sort of not look at the situation as a problem, but kind of go, okay, is this an opportunity that we can learn from? So yeah, I've had a few Zoom classes every week, during the lockdown. I've had more inquiries actually for Zoom classes rather than face-to-face classes. So we realized that, okay, people internationally could do a class with us because we've got that Zoom, it's pretty easy. Anyone can do it, free to download. So having that as a resource has been very, very valuable. And the barista at home now, it's not just, someone who works in a cafe does coffee as their job. It's also people who are maybe retired baristas or have moved on in the industry and they've gotten other jobs. They still have an interest and still a love of great coffee. They're just doing it at home. And it's interesting, during the first lockdown, like, people haven't stopped drinking coffee. Like, we're still drinking as much coffee as we normally would. We're just doing it in a very different way now.
Or even more, actually. Like, that was my case.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, it's lockdown. I'll have one more. I'll have one at 9 p.m. No problem.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see that freezer in the background there, but that's like a 55 litre freezer. So I've got about 4 kilos of coffee sort of stashed away in there because I was kind of thinking, okay, if we're in lockdown, I need to be prepared. Like, this is a serious situation. I've got to be ready. We can't run out of coffee.
Well, if you have one of those bunkers, you have that, 4 kilos of frozen coffee. That's interesting. That's super valuable freezer with lots of goodies in there. No, it's cool. And so this is sort of the outlook. I believe someone's asking, I believe it's Kirk, but Does your beard give you powers?
Not sure about powers, but I'm worried, someone asked me the other day if I'd ever shave my beard. I said, no, I think I'd be able to make coffee if I did that. Wouldn't be the same.
It's
No,
always a
maybe,
requirement in Melbourne to have a beard or tattoos or something, they
yeah,
say.
I think it's like, like when I started getting into coffee in Melbourne, I realised like all the really experienced person had beards and tattoos and thought, oh, that's interesting. But I think it's just, I'm of that generation where that was kind of the cool thing to do. It's like you're in a non-traditional career, so like you're not really bound to, wear a collared shirt and, wear a tie to work. It's a different sort of industry, which is, yeah, it's fun though.
Okay, I got you back. Sorry. I missed the last bit that you said. It froze a little.
Yeah,
That was funny. It froze a little. Of course it froze with you. Had to freeze at some stage. Sorry, you were saying the last bit. I really missed it.
I was just saying I'm of that generation where the more experienced baristas had a long beard or had more tattoos. That sort of meant you were more experienced than the other guys. So I think that's just part of the being in a non-traditional industry.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of outlook of Sub-Zero as well as Melbourne, what do you see in the next few? Let's keep a month or maybe a year or two in the game, especially in Melbourne. But then we can obviously expand that. What do you see happening?
I could definitely see more people making coffee at home. Like I would love, obviously, more people to come to the cafe and enjoy what we're doing. But I'm seeing more and more people asking about freezing coffee at home, making better quality coffee at home. Like the dream for most people is to have a cafe quality experience, but to do it in their own homes, that would just be ideal. So I do see a trend in that, the home barista market, that kind of taking off. I think more people getting into freezing. They've had so many questions about freezing coffee over the last few weeks, and a lot of cafes are trying it, have like a frozen or reserve coffee offering. I think is a really cool thing to have. So it it creates more conversations with customers, and customers getting better quality coffee than they ever had before. So I think it's only going to be a good thing. So we'll talk more about wasting less, but improving flavour, maybe using more coffee, but using less coffee, but trying to get more out of it. I think that might be the way to go.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. And for yourself, what's your personal coffee mission, and what's sort of next for you in the next few years? Or what's the bigger picture goal?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess this year has sort of reset a lot of plans that I had. So this year I was planning on doing some judging in the barista competitions, but unfortunately that's been cancelled because of coronavirus. But I'm definitely looking into the future. I'll, definitely be part of Sub-Zero and hopefully be able to take on more students and do more of a training role as well as working in the cafe. I think that would be really cool. Really missing face-to-face training, so hopefully that's something I can do in the future. Definitely want to give competition another crack next year. I think that would be really cool to do. Yeah, definitely more teaching competition, more tasty coffee. That's the plan.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's interesting what you said around seeing more and more people drinking coffee at home, because that's what Daniel Horvath said on one podcast. He said that in his opinion, home brewing is going to be the fourth wave, which is, I think it's quite, obviously it's cheeky in the sense of that it's more playing with words than anything, but I really think it's quite accurate, because I've had that anthem for a while and a couple of things, but I never brewed nowhere near as much as the last few months, because for me it was all about I love people, interacting with people. So for me, coffee was about going out and get what I can't have at home, which is usually espresso drinks. So, and obviously supporting local businesses was part of the pleasure out of it. And obviously for me, my job and what I do is about talking to business owners and the coffee shop owners. I've been brewing so much, and I went from the James Hoffman recipe to a hybrid version, which was a mixed Scott Rao and James Hoffman, and sort of make a hybrid of the two. And then I looked at 90 Plus, how they recommend to drink there. particular coffees, and then I make sometimes just my own, which sometimes it turned out terrible because I thought that would be a good idea, and then yeah, yeah. I think it's. Sorry.
Sorry, you're frozen up there. Sorry.
No, I think you were making a comment about my terrible coffee.
I was just saying it's all part of the process. I mean, how do you learn how to make better coffee? Through, making bad coffee and taking note of that. Then you can learn. It's all part of the process.
Yeah, and I think it was Keita who told me that at the end of the day, I think that when you want to make a change, just take one step at a time, So if you think it's grind size, then just one bit, then you analyze that, then second bit, and then maybe once you find that working out, then you go temperature, then you go water, then you go at all the rest that make of it. So it's been quite interesting. I think the thing that has been probably the part that I'm more, I mean, this is not about me brewing, but whilst we're here, probably water temperature has been interesting. I've just been finding so many conflicting results based on different coffees and different roasting levels. I understand the theory, but sometimes the theory it's actually been knocked off by the practice of drinking. I'm like, oh, actually, it tastes good hotter or cooler. So that's the part that gets me the most. But at the end of the day, as long as we enjoy it, that's the main part. But what would you say as a last part? Because I believe that we're tagging towards the end. What's your top 3 recommendations when it comes to someone who's just starting to brew at home? Let's talk filter, because espresso machine becomes difficult because not many are lucky enough to have a beautiful, Linea Mini.
Reduce, right? Yeah. I think, filter brewing at home, definitely, one step at a time. If you can, get some really good quality filtered water. If you're in Australia, the coldest water is excellent. That always gives me, really good results at home. You don't necessarily need to build your own water, or, if you have to, definitely resources online that would help you do that, depending on what you're after. But you just got to remember, 99% of the brew is in fact water, so you've got to have really high quality water. Don't use tap water, please. Just try to get good quality filtered water. Using a good grinder, so if you're at home, maybe a Commandante, a bit more fancy, go for the Eco if you can. But Commandante at home can make amazing filter coffee. And I really like using the Stag bellow kettles. They make really good coffee because the flow rate is quite slow, it's quite gentle. So the more gentle you can pour the water into the coffee, the more even the coffee extraction will be. So, definitely try to, the kettle, the water, and the grinder. Obviously, good quality coffee can make a big difference.
Great, man. And just whilst we're here, do you obviously offer home barista sort of ABC kind of training as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, I like to talk to people about, what do you like, what do you want to learn, what do you want to focus on, sort of go from there. So, I could talk about stuff that I like doing, but the student obviously may not be interested in that. They want to do what they want to do. So some people want to learn about filter coffee, some people learn about latte art, that's okay. We're all different. But yeah, definitely working with the student, what do they want to do, and help them achieve that. That's the part that for me really makes it rewarding and makes it fun.
It's good, man. And I think what I love about what you're doing is also the fact that you're, proving the fact that in coffee there is so many little options. Like it's not just one or two. It's like, you're training, but also, you're doing frozen coffee. Like you launched a pretty new concept and you brought it to life, and you're now obviously. There's a lot of interesting people looking at you and what you guys are doing, so it's super cool, man. And looking forward to come down to visit St Kilda once I can catch my breath, which will be a while, but it's okay. Yeah, man. Is there anything left on the table that you like to sort of say?
I should just make a point that it wasn't my idea hasn't just been me on my own. That was Kirk's idea to start Zero as a cafe, as a concept. But we've had so many people help us. We've had friends come in and help us tasting coffee and giving feedback. It hasn't been a one-man operation by any means. We've had so many people help us. It's not funny. But that's the great thing about the coffee community. Like everyone loves to talk to each other about how to make better coffee. So it's it's great. That's how it should be. So, there's no secret recipe. There's no cheat code to make better coffee. It's just you learn through experience. You learn through talking to other people about flavor. That's how we all grow and develop.
Yeah, and it is such a privilege to be, like to have experienced that myself firsthand. I think it's the community, and it's no, you guys have been kicking, and no, glad that you obviously credit the people that need the credit, but it's part of it. It's part of it for sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to come and see you all down to St Kilda. Is it Co-Work Me? Is that right?
Yeah, it's Co-Work Me. It's at 245 St Kilda Road in St Kilda. You can find us on Instagram, Sub-Zero Coffee. But yeah, definitely come down and check it out and have some tasty frozen coffee.
Cool. Yeah, I will. And last thing, actually, because you were doing the rounds of all the people behind it, I'm really loving I'm a big sucker for this, but like the drawing and the design on the bags, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it's really, really cool. I love it. Been really enjoying every time that you guys have a new design. I'm like, yeah, I like it. So that's another part for sure.
Yeah, Todd's a legend. His designs are incredible. So the way he could visually represent what the coffee tastes like, that's really exciting thing. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool, man. Thank you so much for popping by, and we'll see you real soon, man. Really appreciate the chat.
Definitely. Thanks so much, mate.
Thanks, dude. See you soon, man.
Talk to you soon.
There you have it, guys. It was such a pleasure talking to Todd. Get to see him, get to have a better understanding of what's happening on this side of the world, and we had Kirk earlier a few months back. I think that frozen coffee is such a new thing that a lot of people haven't even heard of or start hearing about it. So I think it was a pretty interesting sort of chat to have. And obviously, if you have any technical questions, I'm sure that Todd is happy to sort of answer DMs or emails or anything. If you're still here, really appreciate each and one of you. Big shout out to Morty, Andre, Vag, Kirk, Tanti, Amos, Yuki, and Andre. Thank you all. I really appreciate you being here. Hope you're all well. The podcast have been a little bit, the live streams have been a little bit not as they used to be, as in 3 a week. It's just been real busy. It's just been real crazy. There's a lot of things going behind the scenes. Today was episode 98. We're going to have 2 more. It's going to be 99 and episode 100. Then we're going to close season 1. And then we actually got a pretty interesting concept for season 2 that I'm working on. It's going to be not just coffee, first of all. And second, it's going to be something, very interesting. But before that, before we do the second season, we're going to launch the project I've been working on behind the scenes for a couple of months. We're going to keep going what we're doing. And that's sort of what we are doing. And Amos, thank you for your comment. Andre, thank you. And just for the podcast, people can't read the comments. Amos just said, you're the best. You're the best bringing out new people to the podcast for us. Thank you. That's what we're trying to do. And episode 100 is going to be very interesting. So watch out for that. So anyway, if you share this as a story, much appreciated. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you made it through the end, you can take a screenshot or share it for your Apple podcast or Instagram if you're watching live, or your Spotify, and just share it, tag us. Like, it's all about bringing more people to the community together, and that's what we're trying to do here. Nothing else. Trying to add value for people stuck at home or people who enjoy this chat. So it wouldn't be possible without you all. So sending you much love, and yeah, keep it real. Last thing, I just posted something earlier today, which was a simple reminder, which is you matter, and you do. You all special. You matter. You unique. If you're navigating a difficult time, it's okay. It's not about 2020. It's about life. Shit happens. You gotta learn, and there's a lot of things going on around you, within you. Election 2020, but even before 2020, there was a lot of things going on in the world, and it's okay to be in certain spots in life as long as you surround yourself with good people and find a way to navigate that. I think there's still a lot of stigma around mental health. I think that I just think it's such a taboo talking about it, but there's amazing therapists out there, and you don't need to be super out of it to seek therapy. Very, very stable people get into therapy. It's a neutral ground where you can talk about things that you wouldn't talk with anybody else's, and it's a great way. So if you are in that spot, or if you feel like that you're going that spot, maybe grab your phone. There's a lot of hotlines or therapy, or a couple of good friends, and look, you're loved, you're unique, and you're special. Like you're a human. Like the chances for you to be born a human rather than ant, stupidly small. So we're in this together. So anyway, I'll maybe have to do podcasts around this topic more. But anyway, sending you all love, and